keeps this on?
Recording in progress.
Okay, I guess it really is 7 o'clock, so we are going to get started. Welcome everyone who's in the chamber and online. Tonight is a regularly scheduled meeting of the Land Use Committee. Tuesday, April 1st. I'm Andrea Kelly. I'm the chair. With us in the council, we have Councillor Tariq Lucas from Ward 2. I'm from Ward 3. Councillor Randy Block from Ward 4. Councillor Alan Lobovitz from Ward 6. Councillor President Mark Laredo from Ward 7 and Stephen Farrell from Ward 8. Online, we have Councillor Allison Leary from Ward 1 and Andrea Downs from Ward 5. So we have a full group of councillors tonight. Welcome back stateside, Councillor Downs. Really nice to see you here. We have also with us our clerk, Scott Matthews, and let me just check. I think we probably have some planners. We have Joe Iadenisi from the planning department, Katie Wewell also from there. And we have Jonah Temple from the law department. Other councillors, we have Councillor Wright from Ward 3. And if there are others who sign in or that I missed, I'll introduce them later as soon as I see them and they join. The first item before us is a very quick one tonight. It's a request to withdraw without prejudice on item number 67-25, which was a request to expand a personal instruction use at the Suzuki School at 1615 Beacon Street. They are requesting to withdraw. Councillor Downs, would you like to make a motion to accept that request?
Sure, I'll make that motion.
Thank you. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed or abstaining? Okay, we will accept that request. My understanding is that they have since learned that they don't actually need a special permit to do this work. So hopefully they and we will look forward to the expansion of the Suzuki School without our participation. The next item is number 54-25, which is a request to exceed FAR at 35 Village Circle. Is there someone here? Come to the microphone, please. Just give us your name and address, and you can tell us what you're looking for.
Sure. Hi, my name's Anthony Lee, and I live at 35 Village Circle.
Could you say your name one more time?
My name's Anthony Lee, and I live at 35 Village Circle.
Thank you.
I have a presentation if it's okay for me to share.
Yes.
Thank you. Great.
Go ahead.
So first of all, thank you to the members of the committee for listening to the petition today. I want to start off with a brief introduction of my family and our project background.
Could you speak up a little bit so we could hear you better?
Sure. So my family, my parents bought this property in 1982. And I came along 2 years later in 84. So here's a picture of my mother and myself in 84 on Village Circle. You can see she hasn't aged a day. I am a product of the Newton Public Schools, K through 12. And after I graduated, I've spent the majority of the last 2 decades living in New York City. It's where I met my wife, Angela, and where our daughter, Penelope, was born in 2020. Shortly after she was born, my wife and I were, debating where we wanted to raise her. And my wife and I are fortunate to both work from home full time. And so we could have chosen really anywhere in the world. And for me, the most important factor was finding a place where she wasn't surrounded by Yankees fans. And so we decided to come back to Newton. My mother's lived in this property continuously for the last 43 years. Unfortunately, the house was very damaged. We need a new roof. Structurally, there are issues with the walls as well and the ceilings. So we decided in 2023 to rebuild the house, and we started the process then. We presented to the Newton Historical Commission in December of 2023, and they found the house. They voted unanimously not to impose a delay of demolition on the house. And then we spent the majority of 2024 coming up with plans and finding advisors. The first criteria that we had when we were looking for advisors was we wanted people who were intimately familiar with Newton-based architect. We got a Newton-based architect, surveyor, civil engineer, and NGC. And in September of last year, we moved out of the house to a rental with anticipation that the plans would be finished very soon and we'd be moving forward with demolition. The plans were by right at the time. And so the plans were finished in October. And then in early November, we were surprised when our second daughter came a little bit early. And so for several weeks, my mind was taken off this project. And so we didn't submit our plans to the city until December 9th last year. And we found out about a week later that we would be considered under the new zoning code that took place effective January 1 this year. I just add in 2025 that we received the engineering site approval, so the stormwater management permit by right under the new code. So we're here today to apply for a special permit for FAR relief. The issue at hand is that under the new code, so under the old code, our basement FAR was by right. Under the new code, our basement FAR exceeds the allowable FAR. And so, in the discussion last July in zoning and planning, there was mention of this specific process specifically for homeowners who had been caught up in this. I'll spend a minute just talking briefly about why this is the house that's perfect for us. Obviously, from a school perspective, Newton Public Schools opened many doors for me, and I hope that that my children will have the same opportunities that I had. From an accessibility standpoint, this property is a little bit tricky because there's a 23-foot rise from the street to the back of the property. And so what that means is the first floor, which is really the heart of the home, where our kitchen will be, where our dining table will be, where we'll have all our meals, or we're going to have two first floor bedrooms to allow my mother to and my in-laws to visit, and my mother to age on gracefully on the property, which is her wish. The challenge is how do we get from the street level to the first floor, and the way we have addressed that here is we have a rear staircase which will allow for a chairlift. That obviously takes a little bit of extra space. In addition, we have a wheelchair accessible bathroom on the first. Talking about the neighborhood. So we live on Village Circle. This is a street with 10 houses, the semicircle street that connects on both sides to Hartman Road. When I was growing up and learning to ride a bike on the street, all the houses on the street were capes and modern ranches. And starting in '97, all of the other houses on the street, with the exception of ours, were torn down and rebuilt from the ground up. So they're all now 2 to 2.5 story houses. The average height from average grade is over 33 feet, with the exception of our house, which is currently 23 feet, and under the plans that we propose would be 33 feet, so in line with the average. There is not really a design that a consistent design across the street, although I will say that the same architect has designed 3 of the 9 houses on the street, and our house, this is the same architect that we've hired. And so, if our plans are allowed to move forward, then 4 of the 10 houses on the street will be designed by the same architect. And the last point I'd make is that, I spoke in person with with all of our neighbors on the street, and I shared a copy of our plans with all of our neighbors as well. None of them voiced any concern. A couple of them indicated their support for the plans as well. the last slide. I think what I wanted to try to say here is that, you know, under the 2024 regime of zoning, we were by right. With the code, you know, that passed, I think there were really 3 points. And I think that we really try to follow the spirit of this zoning ordinance change. So the first, and I think the most urgent reason why the zoning code was passed was because stormwater, which makes perfect sense. And yeah, I just highlight that we are lowering the average grade of our property from 157 to 155. We received the stormwater permit by right. In addition, we're reducing the coverage, the lot coverage, from 19% to 16%, and by 1,200 feet. And so, you know, this property should be able to absorb stormwater better than the existing structure that's on the lot. The second factor was building height. Yeah, I already kind of addressed this, but you know, our house is 10 feet below the average of the street currently, and this would proposed designs would bring us in line with the average. And finally, and it's by right here as well. And the final, you know, factor was the basement FAR, and the example that was discussed in the zoning and planning committee was really it was a two-story in the front and a 3-story walkout in the back. There was a lot of discussion around walkout basements, and we just simply don't have a walkout basement. We have the opposite issue where, you know, the back of the property is higher, significantly higher than the front. And so if you look at our basement, there's not a single area where you can walk out except for the garage. And we tried to put the garage on the first floor, but the grade of the garage of the driveway was too steep. The engineer wouldn't allow it. So we actually had to redo our floor plans at the time. And so I guess what I'm trying to say here is that we really do try to follow the spirit of the zoning ordinance that was passed. And that's everything. So I guess if you have any questions, happy to answer them.
Thank you, Mr. Lee. It might just be me, but I had a lot of trouble hearing some of what you said, so I may have missed some of it. So before we move on, just let me ask you a couple of questions. Did you show elevations of the house and a site plan so we can see where that garage is and what the house looks like? And did I may have just missed that?
I did not put that in my presentation, but I can share that right now.
Thank you. Site plan is important for us to see where all the different elements are laid out on the site, and the elevations, we can see what it looks like from the front side and rear. And did you say, I think you said that you did hire a local architect and
Yes.
attorney, and who are those people?
Hired RAV for the architect. We hired Spruhan engineer, and we've hired Bellafy for the GC.
Yeah, we can't. quite
sorry.
hear you.
So we hired RAV architects. So they built 3 of the 9 houses on our street. They designed 3 of the 9 houses on our street. We hired Spruhan for the engineer, which looking at it seems like they're the most prolific. And then Bellafy, which was one of the 5 most prolific developers in the city. I think from over a period of 3 years.
So Bellafy is the contractor?
GC.
Okay. RAV, don't know them, Spruhan, look, okay, thank you. And so you do have photos you can show us of this, or slides of the site plan and the elevations?
Yeah, I'm just, give me 1 second. I think I exited out of the meeting.
Mr. Iadonisi, do you have this information as part of your report? So could we switch to you? This is, I'm talking to the planner right now. Oh, there we go. There's an elevation. Mr. Iadonisi, do you have these plus a site plan as part of your update?
I do not plan on presenting those, rather letting the applicant petitioner go through them.
Okay, so can you describe what we're looking at here for the elevation?
So the basement of the property is the only part of the basement that is accessible to this outside is the garage. I'm not sure.
Is that accessible from the main road? Because we don't see a site plan, so I'm just having a little difficulty orienting myself.
Okay, yeah, so I can share the site plan as well, if that would be helpful.
Is this the front we're looking at?
This is the front of the house, yes.
And so the driveway is down below from the front street.
Yeah, let me grab a site plan. 1 second. That might be easier.
Just before we start talking about it, and because the planning department isn't going to present this, it's very helpful for us to get a little context from you. Thank you.
Can you see this or do you want me to zoom in?
Thank you for pulling that up.
So you can see here that the driveway is basically where the current driveway is. The curb cuts are not changing, I believe. So the garage that you saw is here,
And how many cars in that garage?
a 2-car garage,
Side by side or stacked?
side by side.
Thank you. So it's just one big door, but 2 cars pulling straight in.
That's right.
Okay, thank you very much. There may be some questions for you, so we're glad you'll
Sure.
stick around. Thanks. Mr. Iadonisi.
Sure. I will share my screen. All right. Good evening. My name is Joe Iadonisi. I'm a senior planner with the Department of Planning. This is petition 5425 for 35 Village Circle. It is a request to raise the existing dwelling and construct a new single-family dwelling exceeding the maximum floor area ratio with a maximum of 0.33, where they are requesting 0.37. This is a look at the location nearby the Oak Hill area of Newton in the south, not too far from West Roxbury. As the applicant showed, it's not only kind of an immediate micro neighborhood and abutters that have a lot of varied architectural styles, but generally that larger area is characterized by a lot of those different styles as well. That is the singular item of relief needed, is just for exceeding floor area ratio. All other standards are in compliance. Lastly, the criteria to consider are the specific site in SR2 is an appropriate location for the proposed single-family dwelling with a floor area ratio of 0.37 where 0.33 is allowed, that the proposed single-family dwelling with an FAR of 0.37 where 0.33 is allowed as developed and operated will not adversely affect the neighborhood, that there will be no nuisance or serious hazard to vehicles or pedestrians created by the proposed single-family dwelling with an FAR of 0.37 where 0.33 is allowed, that access to the site over streets is appropriate for the types and numbers of vehicles involved with the proposed single-family dwelling with an FAR of 0.37 where 0.33 is allowed, and lastly, that the proposed increase in non-conforming FAR from to 0.37 where 0.33 is allowed is consistent with and not in derogation of the size, scale, and design of other structures in the neighborhood.
Is that it for you, Mr. Iadonisi?
That's it.
Thank you. I thought it was just sort of hanging there at the end. Now let's see if there are any members of the public, either in the chamber or on Zoom, who would like to make a comment or ask questions. Anybody here in the chamber for this project? Anyone on Zoom? I don't see any hands raised. You still have an opportunity.
I have a small question.
Leah, yes, please do.
Hi.
ahead.
This is actually a follow-up question. We were able to see the plans and everything, and
Leah, can you just give us again your full name and address?
my name is Leah Rappaport, and I live at 225 Greenwood Street, which is behind the proposed project.
Thank you. Go ahead.
I just had a question, which my family couldn't really glean from the very informative emails that we received from you guys. With the sort of increase in grade, even though you're only increasing the height by 10 feet of the previous structure, how much will it be higher than the previous structure to our background? Basically, like we look out onto the back of your home and we couldn't figure out with the plans if it was going to be just 10 feet higher than what we see, or if it was going to be even more because it is a elevated grade.
My understanding is that because we're lowering the average grade by 2 feet and we're raising the height of the building by 10 feet, then it will be 8 feet higher.
All set, Leah?
Thank you.
Anyone else? And if not, if you think of it later, raise your hand while we still have the public hearing open, and we'll just take it into committee for now. Councillor Lucas first.
Thank you, Chair. We're only here because the relief is FAR. And according to my math, you're only talking about 599 square feet of living space. To me, that is perfectly fine. And the only thing I'll say to you is good luck with your project.
Thank you.
You're right, Councillor Lucas, that is what we're looking at. But again, we do get the opportunity here to make other comments if we think it would be helpful for Mr. Lee. Councillor Leary.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yes, I agree. It's a very nice project. And I think a good step for this growing family to have some more space and intergenerational living. Just routine questions that I've gotten used to asking. One of them in particular, even though Mr. Lee said that they're actually reducing the amount of impervious surface on the site, I just wanted to know if there were any issues with water in either on abutting properties or in the neighborhood or any high water table. And also if he would consider even reducing impervious surface more by not just using plain blacktop on the driveway, but considering some pervious materials or stones. So those are my two questions and comments. If maybe, I don't know if there's someone from planning who knows anything about water tables there, or if there are any reports of water issues. And then Mr. Lee could comment on my request.
Thank you, Councillor Leary. Mr. Iadonissi, was engineering involved in any way in terms of analyzing the site for water table or water runoff or stormwater or anything along those lines?
No, I'll just double check the total addition. Yeah, they did not add enough impervious surface to trigger an automatic review. One thing that I can immediately tell and say from the site plans is that they have added a stormwater infiltration system, whereas one was not at all present on the site, at least as far as the existing site plans were. So it would be a net positive in terms of stormwater management. Sorry, didn't mean to interrupt you, Katie.
Oh, no, I was just going to add, I think we heard, Mr. Lee say that, he kind of got caught up in the ordinance change and he was on his way to a building permit. So I believe in his presentation, he did say that he submitted for engineering site plan review when the project was thought to be by right. So my understanding is engineering has reviewed this with a building permit in mind, but not against the special permit. We typically wait for a larger threshold of project to send it down there at this stage.
Thank you, Ms. Wewell. I think it's a question we often ask here, especially knowing what the Oak Hill Park area is like in terms of water. And I think we might hear something from the Ward 8 councillor about questions relating to that. If not, any other questions or comments from the committee?
Madam Chair, I did have one question about the driveway, if Mr. Lee could comment on that.
Yes,
To be honest, so I have no background in building and I'm not exactly familiar with what those materials are, but I definitely am open to it and I will, get smart on that. And it's definitely something that I want to be a good neighbor and, do my best to minimize stormwater flow to the neighboring properties.
Great. Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Lee. And Madam Chair, as you mentioned, this community does have or may have a high water table. So I wasn't really satisfied with the answer that I received regarding, I don't think I really received an answer about that. So I would like to see the engineering report if it sounds like it's available.
Thank you, Councillor Leary. I suspect that many of us would like to see that. And you're right, this is an area that often has water and high water table issues.
And since there's so much been built there, I mean, maybe if nothing's been showing up, because it's not exactly in Oak Hill Park, could be a different topography there. So I just wanted to know.
Thank you, Councillor Leary. We are taking note of that. President Laredo.
If I'm not mistaken, Village Circle's on a hill, correct?
That's correct.
It's actually fairly high up, so I'm not, it's not a lowlands like you have at Brown or Oak Hill, or for that matter, Oak Hill Park. So I think the water table issues might be a bit different here, and I think that's worthy of note. My personal belief is it's great if this petitioner wants to explore that. I don't, it's fine, but as our planning department said, there's actually a net positive here. Looks like all the water is getting contained on site, which is what we expect. And, I leave that to the petitioner's discretion and not try to incorporate any kind of board order at all here.
Thank you, President Laredo. Anyone else from the committee? I am definitely looking to hear from the Ward 8 councillor on this.
I am very pleased to speak on behalf of this project. As President Laredo, Councilor Laredo just mentioned, this is higher ground than a lot of other territory in Ward 8. It's certainly higher than my home. I do not know of any water problems that do exist in this area, in this block or two. There certainly are lots of water problems. I think this is a great project, and I'm very pleased to support it. This family has been here for a very long time. They want to continue to be here. They want to continue to be part of the Newton community, and I couldn't be more enthusiastic in supporting it. It fits perfectly into the existing neighborhood, the architecture. They're all pretty large homes. Any specific questions, but I heartily support this project.
Thank you, Councillor Farrell. I'll probably come back to you in a minute or two in terms of making some motions about this.
Okay.
Councillor Wright.
Thank you. I'm wondering why the FAR increased with just the garage door being exposed. Are they counting, do they have to count some of the basement as part of the FAR? To me, it just doesn't make sense.
Mr. Lee.
Yeah, so the property doesn't just slope from the back to the front. It also slopes from the left to the right, looking at the property. And so in the shrunken footprint, the difference in height between the left and the right side of the property is about 5 feet. So the left side of the property, which is where our yard will be, is a couple of feet below the first floor. But then once we get to the right side of the property, that wall is low enough that the basement there does count under the new rules with the existing grade. So in the proposed grade, we had put a 1.8 foot, I believe, or 1.8 foot, I believe, retaining wall on the right-hand side to prevent several feet of that wall counting, and it no longer, that doesn't work anymore.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Wright. I don't see any other questions or comments from city councilors or anyone, in which case, Councillor Farrell, would you make a motion to close the public hearing and move to accept this proposal?
Thank you, Chair. I would like to move to close the public hearing and to approve this project. Thank you.
Thank you. Everyone in favor, all in favor of closing the public hearing, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed or abstaining? Great. The public hearing is closed. Mr. Iadonisi, let's see the conditions. Iadonisi, sorry.
No problem. Let me pull up the draft order. Okay. Okay, the draft conditions are our standard condition number 1 with the site plan and architectural plans referenced, and our standard condition number 2 that no building permit will be issued except when the plans are shown to be matching and consistent. And lastly, our standard condition number 3, which is that no certificate of occupancy will be issued until we have a statement of compliance with condition number 1, and that we have the as-built plans and that is shown to match what has been approved under the building permit.
And that's the end of your report.
That's correct.
Thank you. We have a motion before us to accept this petition. Let's take a roll call vote.
Councillor Block,
Aye.
Councillor Downs,
Aye.
Councillor Farrell,
Aye.
Councillor Kelly,
Aye.
Councillor Leary,
Aye.
Councillor Lovovitz,
Aye.
Councillor Lucas,
Aye.
Councillor Laredo. Motion passes.
Good luck on your project, Mr.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
The next item before us tonight is number 68-25, which is a request to amend special permit number 388-21. We've seen this before, to allow a series of retaining walls with a combined height exceeding 4 feet in height at 298-304 Elliott Street. And there are a few other changes we haven't seen before. Mr. Morris,
Madam Chair,
welcome.
thank you. Pleasure to be here in person, as always. For the record, Madam Chair, members of the committee, by me is Terry Morris. I'm the attorney representing petitioner here, and my office is at 57 Elm Road in Newton. We are here, this actually originated with a request for a consistency ruling some months ago. I'm sure members of the committee may recall, it was actually the commissioner had requested advice and counsel from the committee and approved portions of the request, but found the need to amend the site plan based upon issues involving 2 walls. The first wall was actually, let's go back, yeah. Not showing up. The first wall was a riprap wall. It's a pre-existing riprap wall, which when installed years ago was actually across the lot line onto the neighbor's property. There was a concern about that. The wall has since been reconstructed so that it is entirely on the subject property. In addition, there was a second series of walls which are identified in the upper left-hand corner here in blue. 3 retaining walls, one of which was originally, maybe we could do that. One of which was original to the site. The photo in the lower left-hand corner, you can see there's the remnants of a wall that's certainly more than 100 years old. That was replaced with obviously a wall that was a more sufficient quality, and then flanked on either side by 2 other walls, which taken together constitute 7.7 feet, exceeding the 4-foot limitation and therefore requiring retaining wall. Reason for the consistency ruling was it was not clear at the time because of one of the walls that constituted the triumvirate was original, whether that was to be incorporated or whether the walls would be measured separately. Obviously, that decision was arrived at that we needed a special permit, and that's one reason why we're here. There were some other issues related to the riprap wall when it went before the committee. The committee members had we're showing now the post condition. Yeah. You see now the post, this is two different angles of the reconstructed riprap wall. One of the concerns expressed at the Land Use Committee was that the petitioner engage a professional to assess the situation. They did engage Leone Landscape and Construction, a prominent landscape and construction firm, actually, who have many high-end clients in the general area. Mr. Leone, Frank Leone, who's also an arborist, came out and assessed the situation. One of the concerns was the impact on the wall as it stood and its effect on the trees. So he basically had come out to assess the situation and the reconstruction of the wall. Engineering. With me is Ms. Christy Dennis, who is a member of the architectural team.
Hi, Christy Dennis. You need my Boston address. It's 373 Border Street in Boston. And I'm with the architect. Yeah. And so subsequent to the consistency meeting last summer, we did engage with engineering division to review the site. John Daglian issued a memo raising certain concerns. So we met with him on site in the fall of 2024, after which you see the letter on the left that Martin Smargiassi prepared outlining proposed measures, which were a combination of things we discussed on site with Mr. Daglian and that had been proposed by Mr. Leone. And he indicated on the portal, that's the top right image, that provided that those conditions were followed through with, that he was prepared to sign off on the project. The wall was, as Mr. Morris says, rebuilt to be to the property line, which was one of his major issues. And we did as much landscaping as we could at the time. There is some remaining sod to go down after construction is complete and pending the outcome of this hearing. And then there's an exterior railing that will go up as well. The email you see the bottom right is him indicating his intention to be okay with that, provided that those items are installed.
Yeah, I think in addition, I think I saw recent from the engineering division actually requesting that certain notes be placed on the plan to clarify situations. He also had pointed out that during his visit in the wintertime, he couldn't fully investigate the condition. And I think there are members of the committee who actually went on a site visit today who can attest to the fact that as to the conditions that they saw. One other thing was ground cover.
Yes, much of the ground cover has been planted. It was covered by snow when Mr. Daglian was on site, I believe. It was visible today. And again, the final sod will not go down until the construction work is complete, so that it will not be covered.
Perhaps talk about communication with the neighbor on whose property the riprap wall had previously been.
Yes, we've been in touch with him throughout the project, including regrading, I believe that's correct, some of the property in the rear, just that may have been disturbed during the work. And the intention is to regrass that area as well in the spring when the grass goes down on this property. Want to correct one item, just in case it wasn't clear, the riprap wall is not a historic wall. It is something that was constructed as part of the project. I wanted to clarify that.
I think that concludes our presentation, Madam Chair, and we'll be here available for questions.
Thank you. While you're standing there, can you just clarify for me? You said that there will be railings installed later. Are those on the perpendicular walls and or on top of the riprap so people don't fall off of that? Or where are the railings going to be installed?
Sure. If you look at the three blue walls on the top left, the right-hand most wall is the grade change is greater than 30 inches. And we reviewed with the Historic District Commission proposed design for a railing there, since it was not part of the package they reviewed, and they approved it with a minor modification. So the intention is to have the wall built there. The riprap wall is actually behind a fence. I don't know if you see the line with little circles along it, just below the shaded kind of pinkish area there. And you can tell in these photos as well. You see the fence there relative to the riprap. So effectively there is a railing there.
Okay, so the fence will act as the railing. There won't be a railing closer to the wall. Historic approved a wall on that perpendicular, I mean, a railing on the perpendicular. Do you have an image of what that's going to look like, or that's what they've approved?
They've approved it. If you'd like, I could try to pull it up, but I could take a few minutes to do so.
Sure.
Okay.
Okay. Planning?
Sure, I can give my presentation while Ms. Dennis pulls that up.
Great, thank you.
So this is petition 68-25 for 298-304 Elliott Street. Oops. The site is located in the multi-residence 1 zone, and it is also within the Newton Upper Falls Local Historic District. So this site is governed by both a special permit as well as in the jurisdiction of that local historic district commission for any site changes. What we are looking at today is an amendment to special permit 388-21. That special permit allowed 4 single-family attached dwellings and 2 buildings on site with dimensional waivers for both the building as well as the parking configuration. Something to note about this site is it slopes upwards approximately 10 feet from the front right corner to the rear left corner. And it's still under construction, and the applicant is seeking certificates of occupancy as each unit is completed. The petitioner is seeking relief to amend the prior approved site plan and special permit to allow a series of retaining walls over 4 feet in height. So as you saw in their presentation, those 3 parallel walls in the back all have a cumulative height of 7.7 feet. And then that riprap wall along the right property line reaches a height of 3.2 feet. So only those walls perpendicular but are in a parallel configuration to the carriage house require zoning relief, but because there's a prior special permit, it sort of places the whole site plan under review again. When reviewing the request, the council should consider whether this is an appropriate location for that system of retaining walls, whether they will adversely affect the neighborhood, whether they will cause not create a nuisance or serious hazard to vehicles or pedestrians, whether access to the site over streets is appropriate for the types and numbers of vehicles involved. Then we have the 3 retaining wall criteria that points to challenging topography, which limits the use of the property such that it could not be improved without these walls, and whether the walls will not adversely impact adjacent properties, the neighborhood, or the public, and whether these walls are the minimum structure necessary to allow the property to be reasonably utilized. So for the analysis, the petitioner should ensure that any changes to the site are also approved by the local historic district commission. The site plan does show that riprap wall entirely on the petitioner's property on an as-built site plan. The 3 retaining walls near the carriage house are set back in the rear of the site, and they're minimally visible, if at all, from the street. So we also got some information from engineering, not in time for the memo, but in time for the hearing tonight. So John Dagley and the associate city engineer performed a site visit and discussed the following with the applicants: that a safety fence or rail system is needed for walls over 3 feet in height. He was informed that the large stones along the wall that were encroaching were removed. And as the yard is not fully landscaped, it needs siltation control until the slopes behind the renovated carriage house or barn and garage were stabilized. So John Daglian has reviewed this, and that concludes the planning presentation. We're happy to bring anything up or answer any questions.
Thank you very much, Ms. Wewell. Did you want to just put the slide of the rails up?
We do have illustration on that railing.
Yeah, I apologize. It's not more presentation. Perfect, but attached, not showing up.
Bring it up. Sorry.
So it's only on one of those three parallel to each other, but perpendicular to the structure walls that's over 3 feet high. On
That's
one.
correct. And I can go back to that site plan in a moment, but first, this is just a sample image shown to historic of a railing that was installed on the main house on the property. And then this.
There it is.
Shop drawing requested by the HDC. Again, it's kind of sloppy, but this was just sent quickly to the contractor. The HDC approved with the condition that the mid rail shown there a few inches below the top rail be removed and the pickets extended all the way up.
So it's a black metal rail similar to that balcony rail you just showed us. So
Yes, that's the
compatible.
intention. Yes.
Perfect. Thank you very much. Let's see if there are any members of the public who have comments or questions or things to say. And you had mentioned that you'd been in touch with the rear abutter. Is that person going to be speaking? I don't see any hands raised, or have they submitted a letter saying that they're in support of that riprap wall that they will be looking at?
We didn't request them to submit a letter. No, we were in communication with them about the cutback and then notified them that it had been done.
And notified what?
Notified them that the work was complete, but we didn't request a letter, no.
It's always good to do that. We like to have a record of support from neighbors, but okay, so no. I don't see any hands up. If not, let's take it into committee. Any comments from committee members, land use committee members? Lucas, Block.
I guess I will start. How you doing, Mr. Morris?
Fine, Counselor. Thank you for asking.
I can't hear you.
Fine, Counselor. Thank you for asking.
There we go. So one of the first photos that you displayed was that rear side entrance with those two retaining walls that total about 7 feet in height. That's what you're seeking relief for, correct? Only those two retaining walls?
And the reconstructed riprap wall as well.
Except I believe Ms. Wewell said that one wouldn't trigger relief, but it was just being,
But it was not entirely on the site. So now it is.
And it was not on the plans.
It was not on the.
So we didn't see it before. So that is new. So you do need
Wanted to see
this.
bottom wall, top of wall measurements, which we have on. the-
Terry, can you speak to the mic?
I said, as well as they wanted to see bottom of wall and top of wall measurements, which we have shown, which are now shown on the plan.
Okay, so it's those two retaining walls, the riprap wall. That's the riprap wall is new to the site plan, right?
Correct.
Okay, all right. And what's the height of that riprap wall?
3 point, less than 4 feet.
Less than 4 feet. So, okay, all right, got it. The riprap wall, has it been improved at all within the last, I guess, the last time you were here for this project?
yes, the wall was rebuilt. It was rebuilt to not be encroaching over the property line, and it was also stabilized, and it was pulled back from any trees that it was deemed by Mr. Leone to be encroaching on,
Okay.
except for one tree which is intended to be removed.
Per the tree ordinance, of course.
Absolutely.
There we go. And then you were talking about a railing. Does that railing go on the riprap wall or on those two retaining walls?
Retaining walls,
Those two retaining walls in the back, right?
one.
Oh, just one of the retaining walls? Okay. Can the retaining walls in that railing, can that be seen from a public access point? A street?
So the 3 retaining walls were reviewed by the MAPC last summer, and they deemed that they were not
Visible from the street.
essentially not visible from the street to the extent to require review by the historic district or district commission. The railing, however, as a 3-foot railing would be visible from the street, which is why we took that back to the HDC.
Well, the railing is visible, but the walls are not.
That's correct.
Interesting.
Because the railing will sit on top of the wall.
Yeah. Interesting. All right. Okay, so that's why the HDC is involved in this. I was wondering why they wanted to know about this when it was way in the back of the property. But I guess that answers my questions. Okay, so I'm all set for now. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Lucas. Councillor Block.
Thank you, Chair. My question is largely procedural and through the chair is directed to the planning department. Ms. Wewell said something that I had a little trouble following. Is what's before us the entire project or just the amendments between the current plan and the previous plan? Just clarify that for me.
Only the amendments are the part that's changing. So those 3 retaining walls and that riprap wall along the property line.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. That's it.
Thank you, Councillor Block. Councillor Labovitz.
I just wondered whether there's any water issues, drainage.
Again, we're only looking at the amendment that relates to those walls. So you're asking if because of these walls and the reconstructed riprap wall, is there any new evidence of water issues?
Exactly. Thank you.
Mr. Morris and/or Ms. Wewell?
I'm not aware of any water issues. I don't, planning isn't, sort of the first stop for that. It would normally be engineering. So but I'm not aware of any.
I would just say that that's part of what was discussed with Mr. Daglian on site. And so given that he's indicated his intention to approve this with the installation of the railing and the finalization of the planting, I believe we've addressed his concerns. There is a siltation fence installed there now to be there until the grass is installed.
Thank you. I would have made the same assumption, but we'd like to be clear that Mr. Daglian has looked at this. So thank you for the question, Councillor Labovitz. Anything else from anyone in the chamber? If not, Councillor Downs, I wonder, this is in your ward. Do you have any questions or comments or motions to make on this?
No, outside of just being encouraged that we now have a professional looking at the retaining walls and making sure that they're all in compliance. I've been watching this proceed from, during my various coffees over at Bettina's Bakery across the street, and it's looking fantastic, and I can't wait to see it done. So I would I will move to close the public hearing on this part of the special permit and to approve.
Thank you very much. Let's take a quick vote on closing the public hearing. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Is anyone opposed or abstaining? Great. Now we have a motion before us to approve. So let's look at the conditions for this amendment.
Sure. So this is the draft council order that was in the packet. So again, we have those findings, pointing to the purpose of these walls, their location, at least for those 3 walls in the back, they're minimally visible from the street. The site does have a grade change. And then going down to conditions, pretty straightforward. It swaps out that site plan in condition 1. So the approved site plan will show those walls. And then typically the petitioner needs to exercise the special permit by pulling a building permit. So we've included the building permit condition in here, and then no final inspection until these steps are taken, the statements of compliance, as-built surveys, as well as approval from engineering. So that is pretty much the order in a nutshell.
Thank you, Ms. Weaver.
Yeah.
We're about to take a vote. I'll just say I too am very happy, as others have mentioned and Councillor Downs mentioned, that the petitioner and the team took the input that they heard from us previously and had a professional help with rebuilding that formerly falling apart rubble wall. This riprap wall looks a lot more sturdy, and I think we're all really happy to see that. And of course, the railing is very important, so I'm glad you added that too. So I'm happy that you move forward in a productive way. Let's take a vote.
Counselor Block,
Aye.
Counselor Downs,
Aye.
Counselor Farrell,
Aye.
Counselor Kelly,
Aye.
Counselor Leary,
Aye.
Counselor Lovitz,
Aye.
Counselor Lucas,
Aye.
Counselor Laredo.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Thank you, everyone. Good luck.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the committee. And Councilor Lucas, I just want to say I'm not just fine, I'm blessed, and I hope you are as well.
Glad finally, after a long time, we can put a wrap on this project. The next and final item for the night is number 69-25, which is a request to allow 4 attached single-family dwellings at 75 Prescott Street. Is somebody for the petitioner online to present this?
Yes, Madam Chair, Lawrence Lee on behalf of the petitioner.
Thank you, Mr. Lee. Go ahead.
Good evening, Lawrence Lee, 246 Walnut Street, Rosenberg, Friedman, and Lee, on behalf of the petitioner, here tonight to present the project. And Madam Chair, with your permission, I'd like to share my screen, please.
Please go ahead.
Thank you. Okay, if you can all see that, we're at 75 Prescott Street, right in Newtonville, not far from my office. This is a request for 4 single-family attached dwellings. This is a zoning map as well as a historic district map that shows that we are in the Newtonville Historic District. Next to us, we are at, this is the DPW yard. And then beyond that, as many of you know, Boylston Properties had the 40B project that was approved not too long ago. So because we are in the Newtonville Historic District, we had to really get their approval first before we come to you. Almost a year ago now, back in May and June of last year, we had extensive discussions about the project. The Historic District Commission looked at the proposal, the aesthetics, the massing, the scaling of the project. We made changes. We worked with our abutters. I believe Councilors Lucas and Albright may have attended one or more of those meetings. And as a result, the commission unanimously issued and approved a certificate of appropriateness for the project. And that's exactly what we're presenting tonight. From a zoning perspective, we are in an MR1 zoning district, 18,630 square feet of land. It is one of the larger pieces of land in that particular cul-de-sac, that section in the district. Is an existing 2-family house, which is a non-conforming 3.5-story building at 38.6 feet tall, where 36 feet is by right. The project entails the preservation of the existing house with a rear addition that will add 2 more units to the back, and we'll show you those plans later on. Lot coverage is quite low here. It's 17%, where 25% is maximum, and by right MR would be 30%. Open space is 71%, where 50% is minimum. And again, it's a 4-dwelling unit project. You may have received emails from 4 of our direct abutters. Those are all direct abutters next to us on Prescott Street, as well as Turner Terrace behind us, in support of the project. So this is just another Google aerial view of our property here, and you can pretty much follow the tree line in terms of the border of the district, the historic district. That's a DPW yard, and this is the site of the 40B project that was approved recently. So I wanted to show you some photographs just because you can see that there are 2 existing curb cuts and 2 existing driveways. So this, again, the aesthetics and outside of the house were under the purview of the Historic Commission. So what you will see is that we have received permission to demolish, which this was really a modular type of garage. That's going to be removed. This existing driveway will be narrowed down slightly to allow for this additional green space on the edges. This driveway will remain the same. So just from the legal status change from a 2-family to a single-family attached dwellings, even though the existing conditions of the driveway, they're still there, nothing's really changed, but the change of the use requires relief on parking. So we will continue to have parking here, and we'll continue to have parking here. Again, this garage will be raised. This is just additional photographs of more isolating the driveways that currently exist in the curb cuts. And the next one is a rendering showing the addition in the back of a very similar angle. So you can kind of tell that we're trying to hide as much of the massing behind the existing house as possible. Here's a couple of elevations to the left. This is the front elevation. And then this is the rear elevation if you were standing in the backyard looking at the addition. This, as you can see, the ridge line, this is mentioned in the planning memo, is a lot lower than the existing house. The grade does change from the street to the backyard for about 10 feet or so from edge to edge. So that's one of the reasons why you'll see one of the relief is an extension of a non-conforming height. Even though the house, the addition is lower because the grade changes, the average grade is lower. So this is a better view. Street level is here where my cursor is. As you can see, this is sloping downwards. And the addition, as you can see, is a lot lower and subordinate to the main house. I can always come back to any of these if you wish to look at it again. Interior floor plans, I'll briefly just run through them. I can go back to any of these if you're interested. There are 4 units, and those are all in your materials. Existing condition site plan, again, I can come back to these. These are rather technical. If there are any particular questions you have, you can let me know. And this is the proposed condition site plan. As you can see, the driveways are remaining the same locations, curb cuts are remaining the same. Again, we're removing a structure, the garage that's here now where my cursor is, and that's going to be taken away. Landscape plan, these are all part of the materials as well. We can come back to them if you like, but it is very generous in terms of the open space that we're going to maintain, well above the by right requirements and the special permit requirements, and more details on hardscapes in the next slide over here. So there's really nothing more to it than that, other than the fact that we worked very hard with the district commission as well as our neighbors. Again, we received 4 of our direct abutters sent in emails in support of the project, and be happy to answer any questions you may have. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Lee. Are there any members of the public who would like to speak to this? Either in the chamber or on Zoom? Mary Lee Belville. Sorry. I'm going to come to the planning department right after we hear from these. members of the-
Sorry.
Go ahead, Ms. Belville.
Oh, sorry, I was speaking. I didn't realize I hadn't unmuted myself. Mary Lee Belleville, 136 Warren Street. I very much appreciate that this is a case of preserving rather than demolishing the existing house. And I also appreciate the amount of open space, that they're not like filling the entire lot with the build out. So that's all I have to say. Thanks.
Thank you, Ms. Belleville. Ms. Sturman?
Hi, Janet Sturman, 120 Church Street, Newton Corner. Just wondering if there's going to be any element of affordable housing at this property, since all I hear, everyone's screaming at City Hall and crying about this. We're having a crisis. There's a crisis. There's a housing crisis. Didn't you know there's a crisis? So is this affordable? Is this going to be affordable housing? Are these units going to start at $2 million each? I don't know. Everyone's pushing to get all this. I mean, I have no problem with people building properties, but when you're pushing this whole affordable agenda and housing crisis agenda, I know this will not be affordable at all. This will be very high end of the market. And it's great because it's going to push Emily Norton's property values up because she lives across the street from here. Too bad she's not on the council anymore. And again, is there going to be any affordable component of this? Is this property going to be affordable?
Is that it, Ms. Sturman?
Oh, so I don't get any response. I just get to talk?
No, you're just speaking. We're not having a back and forth conversation.
Oh, we're not? Okay. All right.
No, we don't do that.
I'm so happy to see, I'm happy to see that the property is being preserved as well, because I hate seeing all these tear downs. But on the same token, at what price are we paying where you're going? I don't understand the mentality of the people on the city council at all. Are you bucking to preserve properties? Are you bucking for affordable housing? Are you bucking to beat the climate? Not the climate, housing crisis. It's a crisis. It's a crisis. All right. Enjoy your evening. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Ms. Sturman. Let's go to planning now, and they may address some of those questions.
They may. The 20-year-old.
Okay, I will share my screen. This petition is number 69-25 for 75 Prescott Street. It is a request to allow an addition to a two-family dwelling, creating a 4-unit single-family attached dwelling with associated parking, height, and setback relief. A look at the area context. It is within close proximity of the Newtonville Village Center, and as Attorney Lee covered as well, it is within the Newtonville Historic District. Within the area, we see a wide variety of homes and building typologies, being that there's a lot of different zones in the area, but being in the historic district, this type of a 4-square dwelling is generally fairly common. These are the particular items of relief, which is for the use itself and reduced front and side setbacks. One of those will be a fairly significant reduction created by the location of a proposed terminal there for electricity that will be counted as a structure. As Attorney Lee covered as well, the non-conforming height will be extended. That is largely due to the grade. And with the parking arrangement kept with those 2 driveways and a slight reduction of the driveway area on the left, there are additional items of relief required, not only for maintaining that arrangement, but for the requirement of adding 4 spaces, and also because there is a requirement, requirements can be different for single-family dwellings, which includes not being able to park within 25-foot front and side setbacks as opposed to the previously in place setbacks for the two-family use. So that's 2 items of relief for parking within 5 feet of the street, as well as within the front and side setbacks, within 10 feet of a side lot line, and within 20 feet. The criteria to consider, since there are both existing nonconformities being extended, as well as a new criteria with a single-family attached use, are that the specific site is appropriate for the use, that the use as designed will not adversely affect the neighborhood. There will be no nuisance or serious hazard to vehicles or pedestrians created by the 4-unit single-family attached dwellings as designed, that access to site over streets is appropriate for the types and numbers of vehicles involved in 4 single-family attached dwellings as designed, and that the increase in nonconforming height to 40.1 feet shall not substantially be more detrimental than the existing nonconforming height is to the neighborhood, and that literal compliance with the city's parking regulations is impracticable due to the nature of the use or the location, size, width, depth, shape, grade of the lot, and such exemptions would be within the public interest or interest of safety, protection of environmental features. In conclusion, only items of analysis with this are just to consider that it is within a half-mile of the Newtonville commuter rail station as well as the village center. So this would be an appropriate location for an additional 2 units in keeping with the comprehensive plan, as well as the city's aims to preserve as additional dwellings with the preservation of those 2 units that are going to remain. And that concludes my presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Iadonisi. While we have you, or while you have the floor, is it possible for you to pull up the site plan that shows the parking within 5 feet of the street in the front setback, or is that something we should just have Mr. Lee do? And also, would you be willing to address the question that Ms. Sturman raised about whether there's an affordability component to this? And if so, if not, why not?
So for the second matter, as far as affordability, that would be at the discretion, just as any other single-family dwelling, 2-family dwelling, with not hitting the sufficient number of units to hit inclusionary zoning. They do not trigger any sort of required level of affordability per the city's ordinances. I will add that an additional supply is a net positive in terms of addressing the housing crisis, as this is a supply crisis overall. So an additional 2 units can help affordability in other places overall. And then as far as the site plan, I can cover it. I can pull it up. But if you have anything that you want to hear, that's at the discretion of the council. If you'd rather hear from any answers from Attorney Lee, or if you'd rather just have me pull it up, either's fine.
Well, for me, I would just like to see it, but perhaps if we have questions, we can address them towards Mr. Lee. Do you want to just pull that site plan up?
I'll be happy to do that, Madam Chair, if that's.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. You can do that now, and we'll take it into committee. I don't see any other members of the public with their hands raised. Are there committee members who would like to speak? Councillor Block.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you for starting this off with the parking, which I was thinking about as well. Mr. Lee, if you could just walk us through where the existing parking is. Sorry, there must be feedback here somewhere. If you could walk us through where the existing parking is for the existing unit and where the new parking is for the new unit.
They're effectively the same locations. So I'll flip to, you're seeing the proposed condition site plan. And I'll flip back to the existing condition site plan. So you'll see that there is, this is the front of the street, and that's the front of the house where my cursor is.
Mm-hmm.
There is an existing driveway on the right-hand side, and there's an existing driveway on the left-hand side. So that's not changing. And we're actually reducing the size of the driveway on the left side by removing this garage back here where my cursor is. And we're cutting some of that pavement. So where cars are going to be parked are effectively the same location. So there will be cars parked in this existing driveway on the left, and there will be cars parked on this right side as well. So what may be helpful is I'm going to scroll back up to the pictures. This is what it is today. This left side where the garage is, the garage will be removed. Some of that pavement will be cut away. Cars will be parked on this driveway on the left side. Where my cursor is right now, as you can see, cars are already parked on the right side. That's no different than what we're proposing.
So, sorry to interrupt, but when you say cars will be parked,
Yep.
are there going to be four parking stalls on the left side and 4 on the right side? Is that what you're?
Yep. So let me clarify that. We have a total of 4 dwelling units, which requires 2 parking spaces for each unit, totaling 8 parking spaces. So the intention here is this existing driveway will house 4 cars, and this left side will also house 4 cars.
So there's going to be two pairs of side-by-side parking
Correct.
stalls in effect, is that it?
That's correct.
So just try and understand this. So assuming this is approved and all built and occupied, you're going to have two tandems, sort of one unit will have a front and the back, and the other unit will have a front and the back, so that.
That's correct. So if you can see where my cursor is currently, we'll use this as an example.
Sure.
There are 2 cars over here on the right side. If you can imagine 2 more cars here, that will be for another unit.
Okay.
And then likewise, there'll be 2 cars tandem front to back, if you will. And then
Good. Thank you. That helps clarify it. It's crowded, but at least I understand the plan.
Yep.
So the 5-foot requirement, is that from the property line in the front of the house? Is that?
It's the 5-foot requirement from the street.
From the street?
Right. And the technical component here is that just from the change of use, even though we're not really changing the orientation, the location of the driveway, just from the fact of changing the use of this building by adding the units and changing it from a 2-family use to what we call single-family attached dwellings, the parking requirements, it throws us into a different section in the ordinance. And so effectively, if someone were to walk by this property and not see any changes physically, from a paper zoning standpoint, it changes the status. So we're not making anything worse, so to speak, just from the fact of the change of use triggers these requirements, and that's why we need waivers.
Okay, and that's why we're all here.
Correct.
So with the driveway on the right, assuming there are 2 cars parked in tandem, the car closest to the street, is that going to be closer than 5 feet, the 5 feet minimum required?
Yeah, it's really going to be right at the edge because it stops right at the house, and obviously we can't change anything on the house. So this side will be 2 smaller cars parked on this side. That's how we.
So what's the measurement that you're using? What's the measurement from the farthest point towards the house of the driveway, and where will the car closest to the street, just how much, what's that distance?
Sure. So I'm going to try to scroll in here and zoom in. And this was the right-hand side, this right side driveway. So you can see the hash marks here, the outlines of the car spaces.
Mm-hmm.
So you'll see 2 cars here, 1 and 2. 2 cars on this side, 1 and 2.
Sure.
And this is where the measurement to the street comes into play. And likewise, on the left side, you'll see the outlines. There's some utilities here. So the outlines, likewise, it will be 2 cars here and 2 cars here.
I'm
And total
interested.
40.
I'm interested in whether the sidewalk will be at all affected if.
No, it will not be.
Two
We're not allowed to park on the
cars.
sidewalk.
So, okay, so then what is the actual distance that cars will occupy the parking from?
So these are 2 parking spaces that are measured at 8 by 16. So call it 32 feet from the edge of this bush over here to the closest corner of this driveway.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for that measurement. That's pretty tight, Mr. Lee. Thank you very much. Those are my questions.
Thank you, Councillor Block. Just while we're on the parking issue right now, I would like to speak up too. 8 by 16 particularly it's too narrow, but it's particularly too short for 2 cars. It's a very big lot. I'm just going to say right up front, I do not see why there's a need to have parking in the front setback that will be so close to the sidewalk, especially with substandard 3 feet each, substandard and length parking spots. I'm not in favor generally of parking in the front setback. Sometimes if the site is really constricted, we go for that. Or if it's a neighborhood where everyone's parked in the front because the site is constricted, that is not the situation here. So I'm kind of upset to hear the dimensions of these parking spots and see no need for them to be in the front setback. We'll move on to other people, though. I just wanted to piggyback on Councillor Block's questions about the parking. Councillor Lobovitz.
So all my questions about the parking have been answered. Thank you for your comments, Madam Chair, about the size of the parking spaces. I share that concern. I do, again, the impervious surface issue, whether the driveways, especially if they're going to be changed as a result of these concerns, whether they could be more pervious surfaces. And could you tell us what exactly is between the 2 structures? What is that midsection, so to speak? What is that? What's in there?
I think the elevation may be helpful or the floor plan. So I'll start with the elevations.
Okay.
So let me zoom in here. It is a part of the building. If this is the section you're referring to.
Yes.
So this is part of the back addition unit. We're labeling it unit number 4. So this area, you walk in and it goes up to the 2nd level, and this is the unit number 4 is what we're referring to.
So they share a wall.
Yep. Let me go into the floor plan. That may be clearer for you on this. So let's start with here. This is the 1st floor. And as you can see, there's an access point front and back. And this is a demising wall here. So it separates the unit. This is a demising wall. So here, if you were to walk in, you would walk up the stairway. That's the basement plan. So I'm going to jump to the other level. And then you can see that it walks up to the 2nd level and it reaches into this back unit here. Is there
a concern about noise from one unit to the other?
Well, I mean, I think that's a general theme with townhomes and multifamily homes. I know that there are ways to construct and insulate between walls to minimize noise.
Okay. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Councillor Lobovitz. Councillor Downs.
Yeah, thank you. A couple of things I have questions about, and then I have some questions about and comments about the parking. Um, the way these 4 units will be sold or rented, will they be like a condo arrangement? Is that the legal framework under which these are sold?
Correct, Councillor Downs. It will be a condominium.
So there would be a condominium association and some shared expenses for things.
Correct.
I'm particularly interested in that because I noticed there that the stormwater system will handle up to a 100-year storm much better than the current configuration. However, for that to be functional, it will need regular operations and maintenance. That might, I don't know what kind of money that runs into, but it's important that that be done on the right schedule. And I'm sure the city is out inspecting these, and I'm sure it's difficult to just keep on top of that. So how is that handled when you're selling a condo unit and you know that this is an ongoing, upcoming expense? Are you letting people know that that is that apparent in the sales? I'm sure it's somewhere in all that paperwork that people get, but I'm wondering how we notify people that this is one of the expenses that they will have.
Great question. And I can speak to this because I draft these condominium documents when we sell them. So what happens now is that an operations and maintenance order is actually recorded at the Registry of Deeds. And so very recently, I can cite an example of a project that we did on Mechanic Street where we recorded, there's a special permit that was recorded. Alongside with that would be the operations and maintenance, followed by the condominium master deed. And what I typically do is I actually reference those, how they're recorded, and then make it as part of the condominium budget for the buyer. So there's actually a line item in there that says, whatever the estimated costs are. And we close that in the purchase and sale agreement as well as the condominium documents, and they're recorded separately at the registry.
Okay, great. I see why the parking spaces are configured the way they are. You have tandem for each unit because of the narrowness of the site. And on the left side, I don't see any real issue. On the right side, and I biked by there today to just have a look at the lay of the land and just how big that space is. It's very tight. I'm not quite sure how that will work. And I am having a hard time imagining another way to configure 8 parking spaces other than in the way you have, because you've got a building there. And if you make the parking, put the parking deeper into the site, you have the tandem issue, and now you're talking to your neighbors about moving their cars in order to get your car out, which is uncomfortable, to say the least. The alternative would be to put all the parking in the back instead of open space. And I think I speak for many on the council. We would rather not pave over all of our open space in order to meet our parking minimums. So I really think that if you're going to do 4 units here, and I support the housing, and I would rather see 4 units than fewer units. But if you're going to do 4 units here, I think you need to come to us for a parking waiver and reduce the number of parking spaces so that you can actually provide one for 2 of the units, provide just 1 parking space on the right side so that there's maneuvering room. Otherwise, you're either doing a lot of extra paving or you're promising people that they can park where actually it's going to be really difficult to park. And that's it for me, Chair. Otherwise, I think this is a lovely project, and I think there's a lot of support for it in the neighborhood.
Thank you, Councillor Downs. President Laredo.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So I want to hear from planning, first of all, as to the depth of these tandem parking spaces on the right. Bluntly, do you think this is acceptable or not?
So where this would be acceptable is that they are prior existing non-conforming. Otherwise, it becomes kind of a bit of a subjective matter whether or not it's better to ask for a shortened parking stall or a waiver of parking stall. I would also leave it to the petitioners and the property owners as far as how that arrangement works now. It might be partly mitigated by the position of the house towards the end of a dead-end street. But additionally, anytime that they do overhang onto that sidewalk area, that is an area where parking enforcement should be getting involved to protect that sidewalk area for public access as well.
So colleagues, I recall that a number of months ago, we had the folks on Norwood Ave come in. They had agreed at the time to limit themselves to one parking space. They then said that sounds great, but we can't sell the units without the second parking space. That's number one. Number two, we can say you only need to have one parking space there, but who the heck is going to police that when the second car is parked directly behind it? The answer is no one. So we either say we're comfortable with an inferior configuration, and maybe we are, I've got concerns about it, or we ask now for some reconfiguration. There's a tension there about doing that, because I agree with, I think, Councilor Downs' observation. You don't want to just put impervious surface all over the place and a parking essentially all in the back and of no green space. So I think we've got a bit of a dilemma here for planning. I mean, I know that 19 feet is probably, more than you need for most cars, but can you educate us a little bit? Average sedan, how long are we talking about lengthwise?
I believe it's 12, but I need to take a look.
I mean, what I'm trying to get at, colleagues, is look, if and of course there is snow in New England occasionally too, and so I know it doesn't happen every year at this point in time, but it will. So if we're measuring it directly against the house, which is I think what you're doing, you got to have at least a few inches from between the two vehicles. It's just very tight. And for planning, is the measurement of 32 feet from literally the building itself to the edge of the driveway, edge of the sidewalk?
The site plans would show that it goes right up to the edge of the sidewalk, and I do have a correction there that it is they're somewhere between 13 and 15 feet is the average length of a car.
Look, I'm going to reserve my judgment till I hear everyone else. I think this is one of those situations where it's almost a no-win for us. I would hate to reduce a whole unit of housing because of a foot of parking. That doesn't make a lot of sense to me. On the other hand, this does present potentially some safety issues, although I don't think this area, because it is as heavily traveled, say, as one we had not too long ago, which was right near Day Middle School, which was a very heavily traveled area. So I think that's something to consider as well. I'll leave it at that. Thank you.
Thank you, President Laredo. We've been joined and I see Councillor Albright's hand up. I will come to you soon. We still have some other hands up before you. Councillor Albright, Councillor Lucas.
Thank you, Chair. And just to follow up on what President Laredo was asking about the average length of a car, I just Googled the length of a 2025 Toyota Camry, 193.5 inches. In layman's terms, that's 16.1 feet. And I think Mr. Lee was showing us the site plan with 16 feet. I believe that's correct. So let me just go into my questions. Mr. Lee, what's the square footage for each unit? I don't think that was in the memo and that wasn't in your presentation. Go on.
The square footages range from 2,600 to 2,850 approximately.
Thank you. And I just thought of this during the presentation. There's going to be 8 outdoor parking stalls, right, Mr. Lee?
Correct.
Now, my question to planning is, how come they are not seeking relief for outdoor parking requirements? I thought it kicks in with 6 outdoor parking stalls, no?
You're correct, Counselor. The difference is that it's for 5 or more parking stalls. It's in the singular facility with the 2 separate driveways. Those are considered 2 separate facilities. So they don't trigger anything like the lighting or maneuver area or aisle width or things like that.
Excellent answer. Thank you. And just going back to the parking, Mr. Lee, I don't know if you have enough space for those 2 tandem parking stalls on the right side where you have the 32 feet. How much feet is on the left side from the edge of that closest car to the roadway to the sidewalk? Yeah, down there at the bottom. About how much space is there?
Are you referring to this corner here, Councilor Lucas?
No, on the left side of the house.
Oh, sorry.
Yep.
Well, this is being pushed all the way to the end. So I don't have the measurement from this point to the edge of our property here.
Approximate?
If I have to eyeball this, maybe 35 feet, perhaps. I don't know. There's a measurement here. This is 17 feet, 17.7.
So basically what I'm getting at is if the parking on the right side doesn't work, would your clients be open to moving one of those parking stalls, you know, the closest one to the roadway on the right side, to the left side of the house? So I think you would have not necessarily 3 tandem parking stalls, but you would have 3 in a singular row, but not completely tandem touching one another. The reason why I ask about that, because I live around the corner from here, and we probably have the most non-conforming home in all of Newton. And the driveway, you know, we have a driveway where we have 6 cars, sometimes 7 in there, and it's wonderful. But we have 2 cars tandem right on top of one another, and then that 3rd car is pushed further back. It's not touching that car in the middle. So I'm asking if we could go down to that. Can you scroll down so I can see the parking on the left side of the house? So is it possible that we could move, or your clients could move, one of those parking stalls to the left side, but not have it touch any of the parking stalls that are already in there, if you get what I'm saying?
I do.
Okay.
I can certainly ask about that.
Yeah. So, let's see, what else did I have? No, that was it, I think. Lighting, parking waiver. Oh yeah, the parking waiver right now, it's less than 19 feet, and maybe I missed the answer. The questions for planning. I didn't see that on the list of relief that they are seeking. Why is that?
That's correct, Counselor. They do not need relief for those two spaces as that is the current arrangement and that has been deemed prior existing non-conforming.
And they're not extending it in any way?
Not extending it in any way.
Okay, all right.
And I think I wish to, when you have the chance, if I may, Councilor Lucas and Madam Chair, after you finish, I do want to add on to that point.
That's all I have for right now, but I would strongly consider, if it is a problem on the right side of the house, moving it to the left side of the house. And I'll leave it for now, but I think overall, it's a good project, okay? I want to be clear on that. It's a good project. I like what you're doing here. I like how your clients worked with the neighbors and they got their support. I really do appreciate that, okay? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Lucas. Ma'am, were you raising your hand to speak? Well, would you come to the microphone? Sorry, I'm just seeing people in the audience, the public who would like to speak. It's sort of interrupting in the middle of committee. I wish you had raised your hand sooner, but go ahead, sir. Just let us know who. I can't tell yet.
Can
Yes, could you just give us your name and address?
I, for one, can't hear this person at all.
Neither can I.
At the base on the left side?
Hello, it's on now? Okay.
Yes, thank you, sir.
It was not my intention to speak tonight. I've had a good relationship with the developers as they came on board. It's always been an issue for me in terms of parking. There are times in that particular house where there is 7 cars that are parked on that property line. And when they have guests, guess where they end up parking? They end up parking in front of me at 81 Prescott Street. I would object to Council Tariq's position about shifting 2 of those cars, if I understand it correctly, to the left side. Is it 1 car or 1?
He did suggest 1. I think we're just trying to brainstorm and.
No, I understand.
But you would not like to see that happen
I would prefer to only have 4 cars
on each side.
on each side. I'm selfish because it's my house. So,
You get to speak your opinion at a public hearing. I think she would like to say something too.
yes, and because of the curvature of the house, the people who visit the house and sometimes the tenants that are there don't park there, but they park at 81 Prescott Street. So it's not conducive for, and again, when you're going from 2 to 4 units, it's going to just multiply the problem about having visitors. Or if they have 3 cars in that house in each of the units, the parking is a problem for me because I'm a direct abutter. I like the project. I enjoy the project. It's going to elevate my property, but it's also going to exacerbate me if in fact every morning I have 2 or 3 cars sitting in front of me by visitors, and maybe I have no right to object to that, but I will object. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
That's what public hearings are all about. You have every right to voice your opinion and your concerns, particularly as a neighbor. Okay, we're still in committee. Again, Councillor Albright, I see your hand up. I'm going to stick to the committee members first, and then we'll come back to you. Councillor Leary.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair. So since we're brainstorming around this issue, And I did think about, since this is a condo association, you could make a requirement that may perhaps help for a subcompact or smart car type, a smaller car to be required for that side of the parking, that where it's particularly short. I don't think it will completely solve the problem, since it's a smart car, I believe, is just under 9 feet long in length. But people are using much smaller cars now. Those are coming out, and I wondered, could that be a requirement made via the condo association for the parking on that side?
Well, that's something that Attorney Lee can put into his pipe when he thinks about things. I will say that particularly at some of the elementary schools, and if there are going to be families moving into these units, which are amply sized, I see a lot of Tahoes and Suburbans and Escalades and large vehicles and SUVs. I don't see people necessarily, all families, choosing smaller sedans, and I don't know how this owner and developer will feel about restricting the type of vehicle that the owners have, but that's up to them. Is that it for you for now, Councillor Leary?
Yeah, I will just say that I also do like the project. I think it's a very nice project, and I'm happy to see that the neighbors, are supportive as well. That was just my thought. So if Councillor Lee, if Mr. Lee wants to comment on that. I know condo associations can make those kinds of restrictions if they want to.
Yes, and we will come back to Mr. Lee to address some of these concerns after we hear from the councillors. Councillor Block.
Thank you, Chair. I had a very similar thought that Councillor Leary mentioned. I'm looking at the plan, and I notice that the description for the left tandem pair says 2 compact parking spaces, whereas, and the dimension is 8 feet by 16, whereas on the right side, it just says 2 parking spaces and it's 9 by 19. So I appreciate this differential description. It shows that the petitioner is aware of the difficulties that we're focusing on here. In the brainstorming spirit here, I'd just like the petitioner to examine the distance between the house and where the first car could park. It looks like there might be some space that you could utilize. I can't tell from this, but that would be one possibility to lengthen this distance. One could also perhaps require just 1 car or the 2 cars to be of a combined length, so that the resident would have some flexibility in having 1 larger car and 1 smaller car, something like that. It's just these spaces associated with whichever unit goes with them. It's just 1 out of the 4 where we see this space potentially pinching on the sidewalk, and that's a concern that I think all of us are having. I would just say that I would not be receptive to a waiver of 1 parking stall. I think this kind of living as a practical matter, the people who are going to inhabit this are likely to be a 2-car family. Let's just put it that way. And we want to accommodate them. Thank you. That's it.
Thank you, Councillor Block. Councillor Albright, thank you for coming and for your patience. It's your turn.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I want to agree with all the people who've said that they like the project and appreciate the way the petitioner has worked with the neighborhood. I know I attended a couple of meetings. I am in total agreement with, I think it was Counselor Downs and President Laredo, who said that we shouldn't ask them to move any of the cars to the backyard, which I think nobody's actually doing. So I'm glad that that's not on the table. I'm also glad, I agree with what Counselor Block just said. We shouldn't ask them to get rid of one of the parking spaces. We've been through this on Norwood. We know that families with children need 2 cars. Regardless of the transportation issues, they might have 2 children going in opposite directions. And so 2 cars becomes important. And the last thing I want to say is that these people will figure it out. The people who are selling these units, the people who are buying these units will figure this out. They know the rules. You can't block the sidewalk, which frankly happens all the time on Beaumont, where the driveways go down a hill and nobody wants to park down the hill, so they park in the sidewalk, but never mind. Nobody's reporting them. This will all work out. This is a project that's a good project. It should not fall apart because of a few inches or even a foot. I hope that you will consider approving this project and moving it along. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Counselor Albright. Counselor Laredo, President Laredo.
So I appreciate and agree with Counselor Albright's thoughts here. Look, colleagues, the last thing we ought to be doing is demanding that a developer put in limitations such as a car is going to be compact in condo documents. I can tell you with a pretty high degree of assurance, 2 things. One, as Counselor Albright said, they're going to figure it out. 2, if anyone has ever lived in a small condominium association, I can virtually guarantee that while the lawyers have read the rules very carefully, the people who actually live there are not scrutinizing it. They're going to do whatever they want that works. And we are not going to be able to police a special permit like this. Who is ever in our inspectional service department going to walk there and say, well, those cars are not compact? What they will do and should do is if they are blocking the sidewalk, that is something inspectional services or the police department can deal with and should deal with. So I think we're going to have an element of common sense here. Obviously, I'd prefer to have more space between the sidewalk and the parking. And while I appreciate Councilor Lucas's observation about trying to shift it, I just don't think that's practical here. So we have an imperfect project, but essentially a good one. I think there's consensus for that. I think we ought to let them go forward. And I'm comfortable that the folks who are actually, especially because there's a condominium association and not rental units, there's a real difference there. I think the owners, even though you might have a condo that's owned for rental purposes, I think the owners will figure it out. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, President Laredo. I think they will likely park overlapping the sidewalk. I think it's our responsibility to be sure that there's enough room provided where they don't do that. And I, for one, I see that we do have the architects here, and I don't know if they had a civil and surveyor on the team. I think if they could find a way, particularly on the right side, and I've got a few sketches here. I'm a site planner and a landscape architect. I have a feeling they could come up with a solution. It might be a little jimmy rigged and people are going to have to move their cars, but I would rather give them the space to do that than give them 16 feet and be pretty sure that they're going to be overlapping on the sidewalk, which is not a safe condition. I will say too that I also think this is a good project. I am very glad to see all of the neighbor support. We've heard about it. I think the design is good. I think the quality of the units is going to be good. I don't want to shelve this or bag it for, as Councillor Albright called it, a few inches, but I would like to ask Mr. Lee and the architects who are on, do you think you could find a way to find for 18 feet long parking spaces in a different configuration on particularly the right side?
Madam Chair, yes, I think there actually is some wiggle room here. So if I may share my screen one more time, I want to pull up the site plan to
Yep,
show
and
you.
you wanted to have one more chance to answer a few things, so I
Yes.
just thought I'd threw those points out before you
Thank
took a
you.
last shot at it. Go ahead.
Thank you so much. So I'm going to focus on this area in question here. So as you can see, this is the 8x16 measurement, and it starts from this point over here to this very edge of the corner. But if you can see, this is actually, we have some room with this one landscape space. So with your permission, what I would like to propose is to work with planning department, because this is a district property, historic district property. I can speak with them and my clients about perhaps eliminating this one landscape area and shift this portion slightly closer to the property, to the house. That will get us the couple of feet that we're talking about. As you can see, that there's a 5-foot measurement here. So I'm eyeballing this distance between this hashed line to perhaps right around here about this cursor. That will probably give us that 2 to 3 feet we're talking about. So that's one in terms of the wiggle room. Secondly is in terms of the condominium documents, I can speak to that too. Rather than restricting the type of cars, that there's a very common rule that unit owners are responsible to ensure that their vehicles do fit in their parking spaces, the exclusive use parking spaces. One example that I can cite is another special permit project where it was a garage, tandem parking with undersized compact parking spaces. In our condominium documents, we refer to, again, rules that you have to make sure that whatever car it is, it has to fit. From a practical reason, going back to some of the comments I've heard, when people look at buying these properties, using that other example, we have lost buyers. My clients have lost buyers because they see that these rules are in place. They see the parking spaces. They'll say, yes, it works, or no, it doesn't work, and then they'll just move on. So we will have rules where it says you have to fit within the exclusive use areas. And I think here we do have some wiggle room that we can potentially play with. And as Joe Denisi said, this is an existing condition. So I think we're working with something that already exists. People have been parking in this configuration for some time. So this is not a new condition that we're proposing. So I'll leave it with that. Thank you.
I see one of the architects, Fede, has his hand up. Fede, would you like to speak to this issue?
Yeah, hi, Federico Arellano from Peter Sachs' office. So, Lawrence, I'm wondering if you can share the plan a little bit, that area that you were showing in the parking. I have my pencil here, but I cannot use it there. So one of the reasons why we keep that area there, so Lauren explained that and showed too, was because it was a pre-existing. So we didn't want to touch. That was approved for spaces. We understand that that is tight, is that portion there, but we try not to modify, not to change it. So something that we can explore is the you see this? Can you see my cursor there or no?
No.
No. Okay.
Do you want to share your screen, Fede? Do you want us to be able to let you share your screen?
No,
And
no,
then-
I will try to explain from the plan from Lawrence Lee. So we have the property line. Seems to me like we have there probably 3 feet to the property line in the back, and maybe 3 feet in the front, a little less, and maybe 4 feet in the back. So we can shift the parking a little bit towards to the property line, and that may allow us to push these 2 spaces deeper into the lot. So we have to relocate these garbage bins there, but seems to me like potentially we can push this a little bit in, slide everything towards the property line, keeping, I want to say, a foot there, and slide everything into the deeper in the lot. That appears to me that could be feasible. We need to check that with Joe and see if we can figure out a solution like that.
Thank you. I'm very encouraged to hear you say that, and I'm more comfortable letting you actually design it rather than on a screen at night with a cursor and with us who are not you guys. I would be inclined to want to approve this pending a solution where you can find spaces on the site for 8 by 18-foot parking spaces for those 4 cars on the right, and work that out with planning's agreement. I would be okay with that. I would not be okay with what we see in front of us tonight, only for the parking. Again, lots of other good things on this project. I see, Councilor Leary, your hand is up again, or is it just still up from before?
No, I just wanted, it is up again. I really appreciate the comments from both the architect and Mr. Lee. I think that's perfect. The vehicle must fit the exclusive private areas. I was a little, my brainstorming here was more just to not get us into the notion of allowing cars to float over to the sidewalk, because that's what would happen. That's
Yes.
what we would start allowing. To have this go through, and that would set a precedent when we just gave another person in Ward 2 a really hard time about a car that poked over the sidewalk. So I just want to make sure we're consistent, and if we have to think through things to get to yes, that's our job here, and I think we're doing that. And I did just have a concern about the trash, which I think Federico just addressed. But still, I'm wondering if there's enough space for them to be able to move those barrels around the cars to get them to the street.
Well, let's
they're
give
banging
them a
against-
little time to
We
try and
can,
work on this.
sorry, I guess we can change it to the other side. There is a lot of room to put the barrels there,
Okay.
in my opinion. But for the cars, it appears to me that could be a solution that could give that size that we are looking for the spaces far away from the street, and it could be maybe a solution.
Thank you. That's
Okay.
usually solvable, and I would rather we mark out adequate space for them to park, which will discourage them from parking on the sidewalk. Are you all set for now, Councilor Leary?
Yes, thank you very much.
President Lareda, you had one more hand up?
Madam Chair, I don't think we ought to be doing design work in this committee. While you're a landscape architect, no one else here is.
That's why I'm suggesting we send this back to the
remotely
architect to
skilled.
do with the planning
I
department.
think your suggestion is a good one. I suggest we hold the item, try to get this back here pretty quickly, let the architect and Mr. Lee confer, do their drawings, confer with planning, and hopefully we come back with something that we all feel works and we can approve it speedily.
I agree. I'd like us to get to this quickly so we're not holding these people up. Councilor Lucas.
Thank you, Chair. So, Mr. Lee, I might have some good news for you. So I used to serve, as you probably know, on the Newtonville Historic District Commission. I served for 3 years. It's been a while, but you might want to confirm this with Barbara Kurtz. But if you are removing landscaping, it doesn't require their approval. You can do that per, I guess that's the tree ordinance. So I don't think you need to go back there. And if you're going to go back to the drawing board to move these parking stalls around to get another 3-4 feet, I think that would be fine. And Mr. O'Hare, I withdraw my request to move the parking stalls closer to you, okay? I just want you to know that, all right? When ready, I will move to hold the item, but I do want to get this back as quickly as possible. Thank you.
I think that we're done with the discussion and I would be happy to accept that motion. Do you want to keep the public hearing or do you want to close the public hearing?
Well, let's keep it open.
Okay. We have a motion to keep the public hearing and to hold the item. Let's vote on that.
Counselor Block,
Aye.
Counselor Downs,
Aye.
Counselor Farrell,
Aye.
Counselor Kelly,
Aye.
Counselor Leary,
Aye.
Counselor Lovovitz,
Aye.
Counselor Lucas,
Aye.
Counselor Laredo.
Aye.
Motion passes.
And we're adjourned. Thank you, folks, for coming. Good night, everyone. Not bad.